Welcome back, folks. So we're going to review the Vamp from the original to my raw crawler and to my newest version of the Vamp. It is, of course, as you can tell, the 118, 116 scale Vamps. Starting off with 1982, and we're all familiar with this. This is such an awesome vehicle. It's one of my favorites from the G.I. Joe verse. I'm sure it was designed to kind of be like the Jeep of the G.I. Joe universe, and Jeeps were super small. I mean, in reality, Jeeps are tiny. They almost look almost toy-like. But they were designed to be, for the most part, easily converted and easily swapped out as far as parts are concerned. So it was small, it was transportable, it did its job, it was the mule of the vehicles. I think that the Vamp was kind of designed to be the same thing. It is small. Every time that we put the G.I. Joes into the seats, they always look cramped. But in reality, regular Joes in Vietnam era, they had the same problem. They were pretty cramped in those Jeeps. So it's in keeping with the Jeeps, I think. I could be wrong. I'm not a historian or anything of the sort. But yeah, so this was my favorite toy. I always wanted to make it an RC, but because of the small packaging, it was kind of difficult. The body is, of course, plastic, so it doesn't weigh too much, but still the frame of itself, the wheelbase, everything, it kind of becomes difficult to find the right parts to make it an RC. I was able to make crawlers. I made two different ones. This is the best version of a crawler that I've made. I think you've seen the videos. If you haven't, feel free. There's a video out there of the functionality of this. It does have an acceleron package, so it is brushless. It has rock crawler straight axles, and it has articulation. The articulation for this toy is fairly good. I designed this one to look kind of similar to the SAS, the Special Air Service, British Special Air Service. So as far as the look of it and the extra gear in the back, of course we have Recondo and Dusty driving it. As you can tell, this was a different version of the Vamp where it had a hood. I had to use this because there needs to be space in here for the servo. And also, there's, if you can see that blue cylinder there, that's the actual engine. So there is a version of 124 scale rock crawlers. They're fairly cheap. It's a generic brand, but they do put the engine or the motor up front, which alleviates a lot of space for the middle. That way you don't compromise too much of the interior cab, and you still maintain 4x4 and good articulation. That's why this hood came in handy. I did have to make a little bit of space for the servo right up in here, but the SAS Jeep, they usually had a cutout for, I believe it was the radiator, in the radiator cooling water, but I'm not too sure. But it did have a little cutout, so it was kind of in keeping with that. Lights do work. This is fun. It's a raw crawler though, so it's slow. Even though it has an acceleron brushless system, it's still fairly slow. It's got good power, but because of its size and the upgrade, it's not as fast. It's still a good vehicle and fun to drive. I did try my hand at, as you can tell, the rusting, and that rusting effect. That was my first try. I think it came out okay. So yeah, I've always wanted to make RCs out of these, so this was fairly good and it's fun. But then the big G.I. Joes, the taller G.I. Joes, the newer G.I. Joes, they were just slightly bigger than the ARH, the original 1982. GI Joes and the later GI Joes. But the 25th anniversary GI Joes are just slightly taller, which made it more cramped for the original 1982 version of the Vamp. It just makes it a lot just more crowded. They look, the regular GI Joes, the intended 1982 GI Joes, 83s, 80s GI Joes, they look cramped already, and they were little. They were a little bit shorter. You bring in the 25th anniversary, and this is just the regular size one. We're not even talking about the taller ones. They look even more cramped. Yes, they have more articulation than the originals, but still, it looks a little awkward to me. So they did come up with the 25th anniversary vamps. They upgraded a couple things, but the size remained. The size never changed. So this is the 25th anniversary, as you can tell, and the 1982. It's still an awesome vehicle. Still super fun to play with. They used a couple upgrades. So it was a good toy. It's still a good toy. I still love playing with the originals. Well, I wanted to make one where it was more feasible for the taller GI Joes. So I think it's in keeping with the size difference, the increased size that went along with the 25th anniversary Joes. So I just basically increased it by, I think it was about a half an inch in certain places, and sometimes a quarter inch in other places. There's a video of my progress when I'm building this and how I did it, how I used Lego pieces to maintain the distances, some of the techniques that I use. So if you're interested in building yourself one, by all means look at the video. But yeah, so I think it came out fairly well. It took a long time because splitting the body in various pieces and then reassembling it and filling it in with Apex putty, then it takes it's kind of time consuming. But the results, I'm very pleased with the results. I think the sizes that I picked for the expansion worked. Sometimes there's a little bit off, but that's just, I'm never going to get it perfect. I'm going to shoot for perfection, but I'm never going to get it perfect. The lights are integrated and they work. It is an RC. The articulation is fairly good. These are not straight axles. These are independent suspension. It's 4x4. It is brushed, but because I expanded the whole platform of the body and the bed frame of the vehicle, then I was able to use a little bit more of an upgraded vehicle as far as RC is concerned. So there's a lot more power to it. It's faster. It takes jumps. It's got independent suspension. I tried as best as I could. I used the original wheel and incorporate it into the RC's wheel without losing too much of the aesthetics. So as you can tell, there's still 8 spokes. That's the inside spokes are the original rims, but I couldn't keep it all together. The integrity of the whole look, but there is original 1982 and 25th anniversary GI Joe wheel placed in here. I did not put in the gun. I opted out for the bedroll here, or the camouflage to camouflage the interior. But for the most part, I did try to keep it as close to the original as possible. Upgraded the seats a little bit, as you can tell. Gonna put a Blue Force tracker up in here. The steering wheel is not original. The steering wheel just got a little bit of an upgrade. As you can see, that the eye view of the GI Joe driving it, that's increased from the old one, and they practically had that roll bar right in their faces, so it was small visibility. You can tell the difference. Original, 1982 versus my upgrade. So there is a good amount of extra width, extra length to the vehicle. Again, I go into a little bit more detail in my other video as far as how I built it, but this is basically the end result. I still had to do a little bit of cleaning up and maybe the wheel wells, do a little bit more, just cleaning up the vehicle and all in itself. But for the most part, it's complete, even with stickers. All right, so I'm gonna turn it on. Oh yeah, just as far as the base is concerned, the base, as you can tell, is fortified. It was split apart and then and fortified with metal bars. It took me a couple tries. That's why it's not that clean down here. But I'm gonna cover all that up as best as I can and make it look a little bit more presentable. But as you can tell down here, it's kind of Frankenstein put together. There's just a lot of modifications that I had to do to get the base to work properly, get it straight. So I had to break it, put it together. I had to modify the suspension. That way it's more towards the rear. It used to be up front, but that took a little bit of playing around with the height and the length of all these connections. It's not a pretty or straightforward process. It's what you want to do and what you want it to do and what you want it to look like, and then figuring out as you go. It does have a heavier battery back here, so the suspension did have to be modified. Put some spacers in there, so figured out that I can modify those springs. So that was a good lesson learned. And we'll turn it on. You can see the headlights. They're fairly bright. And then we also have rear lights. The rear lights, I still have to figure out how to make them more red. They're slightly pink in hue. I have taken it out to test drive. It runs good. It runs real good. Everything's proportional. Everything is hobby grade. So the chassis that I did work for the base RC, the chassis is a 122 scale RC, specifically inline. It has to be, well, it doesn't have to be, but the ones that I found that have more power to its proportional size, that is the RCs that you find that have the motor in line. So that means it's not off to the side. It doesn't have extra gears. It's basically direct to the gears, if that makes any sense. You can see it right there. It's a little silver. I believe it might be a 260 size engine or 280. For the size, for the weight, the added weight, it's fast. It handles fairly well. The tires, that was another different find. I have just hundreds of tires on hand. I don't know what I came across, how I came across these, but hopefully you can tell with the light. You see all the markings. They're dirt grabbers, all terrain, RC 4-wheel drive. They're the ones that kept the aesthetics as close as possible. They look more like street tires. They don't look like any kind of like mud tires or any of that sort. So that's just in keeping with the general look of the Vamp. Let me see beyond that. The D10 pins, 2 D10 pins here, and then 2 D10 pins in the back. That way I can remove the body and work on it as best as possible if anything breaks. I did have a little bit problem with the gear ratio and the pinion. Once I added the weight, the pinion on the original motor wasn't strong enough. It had enough power, but the pinion wasn't affixed to handle the weight. So I had to order 11 tooth pin with a little Allen wrench screw in it. That way I can actually tighten it. The original was just glued on or put on. I'm not too sure how they put it, if it's just friction held. But so I had to modify that a little bit. If you have any questions or you decide to do it and you have the same problems, then by all means send me a message. I'll do my best to walk you through my fixes, my lessons learned. I can make you videos too and send them to you. Beyond that, I think that covers it all. Again, if you have any questions, let me know. Send me a message through YouTube. All right, folks, hopefully this helped a little bit, inspire you to create your own, and have fun out there.